In this episode of the Cozy Let's Play, we build a lovely little sawmill on the river to begin the expansion out of the Mossy Acres farm area and into the village. Today, in the world of the Cozy Let's Play, I want to finally move on to the next area of building. It's not far from Mossy Acres or from Cherry Creek Cottage. Instead, it's right over the hill and on the nearby river that cuts a path through the valley. Here in Mossy Acres, we focused on a farming sort of environment with the various fields, buildings, and creatures. In the new area, I want to switch our focus to more housing, tradespeople's types of work, and other sorts of village-related projects. Speaking of this new area, I'm gonna need your help with a couple of things. Firstly, every cool river needs a name, and I want to leave it in your hands much like we did with the other names up to this point. Secondly, we need a name for this village we're gonna put together, whether it's more so a proper village name or a name just for the region. Either way, pause the video if needed and throw any and all name ideas you've got into the comments below, and I'll make sure to check them out as they come in. With that said and done, our very first build in this village comes from a suggestion by Art and May to build a sawmill on the river with a water wheel and all. I thought it was a fantastic idea, so after some planning in a creative test world, I think we're ready to give this a go. The spot I chose for this build is right in this location where the river opens up and splits. We're going to start by terraforming a little bit around the riverbank in preparation for the lumber mill to go up. The build palette I decided on for our first addition to this region is going to be a spruce log and dark oak plank combo for much of the walls. We've also got a stone-based palette for parts of the build as well to help mix it up just a bit. We're using stone, cobblestone, mossy cobble, and moss blocks for the stone palette, just a classy, somewhat overgrown stone base. As for accenting the darker wood palette of the walls, we're going to use a mixture of spruce plank colors for the rooftops and oak plank colors for the floor. With the build starting to take shape, I do want to mention that with the build on the river like this, I do want to do some work on the river itself at some point in the future. I think specifically the branch of it that extends into the forest away from Mossy Acres, with the opposite fork already running along the farmland as we've seen in previous episodes. In terms of this build specifically, we're going to have a couple different areas within. The main area up top is going to be the basis of the build, being where the wood is cut and processed. The top area will also have a little workbench area and a bit of an overlook with a lovely view of the river out to the west. Other than the main area up top, however, I want to add a couple of storage areas connected to the main build. These will sit on the opposite side of the build and help detail up that side that will face the village. With the build overall, I want to put a big emphasis on making it fit in with everything we've done up to this point over in Mossy Acres, capturing that cottagecore feel while sort of giving it our own unique touch. While I get ahead of myself here on the commentary versus the build itself, I've got another request for you guys. With such a nice river and surrounding area, we've definitely got to come up with some more ideas for the sorts of builds that would be placed on the water or near it. So I need some input on some ideas you might have for these sorts of projects. We've got the sawmill now with a water wheel and all, but I can't help but feel like there's got to be more we can do with this river. Back with the build, it's time to begin work on the 3 different rooftops. 2 on either storage room and the main roof up top as well. We're using a mix of spruce planks, stripped spruce logs, and oak logs in terms of color, and using some spruce slabs and trapdoors for additional shaping detail. I'm trying to carry on the theme of highly detailed rooftops that we started all the way back in episode 1 with the Cherry Creek Cottage. Prior to this world, I had rarely, if ever, put as much attention to detail into rooftops I'd built, so it's been extremely helpful in learning techniques for much better roof building. Further down the line, we'll be adding some greenery to the build as well, in the form of leaves scattered about and at certain points climbing up the sides. Now that the rooftop is complete, it's time to shift focus to one of the most important parts of this build. That is, of course, the water wheel itself. This is what makes the whole process of cutting wood possible in the first place, at least the idea of the process, since we don't actually have any of this technology in game. I can't wait for the day that we do get some sort of woodcutter though, a utility block that lets us craft stairs and slabs, fences, and so on, much like the stone cutter with stone blocks. Maybe then we'd get a better deal on trapdoor crafting costs as well. Either way, with the water wheel here, I want to go for a rather large interpretation, at least compared to a lot of the references and examples I've seen others do in game. We'll use a mix of stairs, slabs, and even open fence gates to curve and then detail the outer rim of the wheel, in that the stairs and slabs help shape it, and the fence gates sort of mimic where the water is interacting with and pushing the wheel itself. Using a mix of oak logs and spruce plank textures throughout, the colors match that of the rooftop and fit in nicely with the rest of the surrounding build as well. We're ready for the final touches of this project, which will be the leaf detail we sprinkle around the sides of the build, as mentioned earlier, with just a little bit reaching up and onto the rooftop as well. With those in place, we've got ourselves a lovely sawmill on the river. Alright, with that build done over on the intersection of our river here, there is another important thing that I want to tackle in this episode before we move on to any other primary builds. And the reason I'm standing up here on this side of the river is to show you guys we've got a lot of the sort of default Minecraft generation weirdness going on over here, both in the side of the river, which I want to fix by placing in a bunch of dirt, and of course with all of these cave openings up along the hillside over here, a lot of which I think we can do without and go ahead and fill those in so that when we're ready to start building some more things out here, we'll have a much nicer terrain to work with. So that can only mean one thing: dirt placing montage. All right, well, I've used all of the dirt that I had in storage to get the edge of the river here detailed up, and we of course waited for all of the grass to grow over. I was able to fill in a little bit of the hillside over there as well. However, I did not have enough dirt to go all the way up the larger hill slash mountainside up there, so I think that's something that could probably wait for now, at least until we have more of a dirt stock. But I do think it is enough done for the time being that I can get started on specifically the pathway. So if you guys remember, we have a pathway that kind of carves between the original Cherry Creek Cottage hill over yonder and then this hill that's closer to us, kind of divides the two, and of course it connects over to the Mossy Acres farm as well, just beyond the horizon. So if we can connect that path as it makes its way through and bring it around here, tie it to the sawmill over here, and then kind of lay it out in a way that we have room for some of our other buildings that we want to do in the future to all be connected, I think we'll be looking real good. Before we go and see how our pathway materials are looking though, we do need to do a little bit of cleaning up from all of this stuff that is left over from this build right here. All right, well, I guess I can't hold everything. Let's see if we can account for that by maybe consolidating some of these blocks. Maybe I don't care about the rail as much. Oh man, we need an inventory fix in Minecraft. Okay, I can hold the shield. And then how much stone is that? 10 pieces of stone. Okay, maybe we drop the flowers. Just because I don't feel like taking 2 trips. We're gonna just act like those never existed. And of course, here we are, home sweet home. So with the pathway down below, I do think we're going to carry on the trend of all of the previous pathways we've done, much like what we see right here next to the cottage, a mix of path blocks, packed mud, and of course some coarse dirt. And then we accent it with some spruce fences and some various leaves, between spruce leaves, maybe even birch leaves as well. And of course we have the different azalea leaves in here that also fit very nicely. And of course a little lantern on the fences every so often to light it up. Anything but torches, to be honest. As for where I can get everything stored, well, it's kind of a big jumble at this point. I haven't showed you guys how everything is looking in a couple of episodes now, but it's a bit messy to say the least. I think a proper storage room is something that we're going to want to figure out at some point sooner rather than later. For now, though, we will make do with what we've got here for our various closet space that holds everything we own. And it is definitely overflowing. It's pretty bad. I just didn't want to have to show you guys and admit it. All right, now that inventory is looking so much nicer. We've got everything put away. At least I found a spot for everything. So in terms of mud and coarse dirt, I guess we don't have to worry about coarse dirt. We've got plenty of that. But mud, we've got about a stack and a half, a little bit more than that. And of course we use the mud brick slabs for the pathway elevation changes as well. So realistically, that will probably be even less. And I've only got 9 regular pieces to convert as well. So all that being said, I think we're gonna need to go get a little bit more mud and potentially some more leaves as well. I've got these 20 azalea leaves, only 1 flowering azalea, which will definitely be a problem if I choose to use these. And it looks like over here we've got plenty of spruce leaves and about a stack of birch leaves. So maybe we'll stick with spruce and birch to accent the pathway that we're about to build. Being that we need mud, I should have a little something sitting around here somewhere. Here we are. I should just need 1 of these because the most effective way to gather mud from what I've seen is by finding a body of water and going crazy with a single empty glass bottle on converting all of that dirt at the base of it into mud and then digging it back up. So something like this area here is absolutely perfect, and even better yet, finding areas in which we can reach from just up the side here. Because of course I don't have efficiency or aqua affinity or really any enchantments for that matter. So for now, with our unenchanted iron shovel, just kind of following the lip here, maybe even getting the next row below, will be nice and easy to obtain. All right, 1 additional full stack should cover us for getting at least the amount of pathway that I want to work on for now. We do still need some spruce fences and lanterns though. All right, let's see if we've got anything sitting around. We do, but we're probably going to need a couple more than 28. I'll go ahead and convert these stripped spruce logs. I can always just restrip more logs in the future if need be, and we'll see what this can get us. About a stack of fences, that should probably cover us for the time being. That just leaves lanterns, and I don't think I have very many left, if any at all. They would be out here, and it doesn't look like we have any. We do have some extra iron nuggets, though, so I guess we got to get crafting on some extra lanterns. All right, we're going to need some coal to make some torches first and foremost. I want to still be able to have some on my person as pure torches for any caves or anything like that. And then, of course, iron. We are pretty bad on iron, and it doesn't look like I had any waiting having been smelted, so another iron trip soon is definitely going to be handy. But I guess I'll leave maybe 10 extra behind, and let's convert 12 of these and see where that puts us combined with what we had already. About 14 lanterns. That might be plenty. We don't need too many lanterns at the end of the day because we're not going to use enough of them to prevent things from spawning along the roadway. That's not our goal. Our goal is to just get some nice lighting that's consistently spaced out and looks good, especially at night, for making a place kind of feel lived in and occupied and used, all while not being overblown or overdone in the name of spawn proofing. So let's go grab a stack of wheat real quick. We'll turn this into some packed mud, and then we can get started on our pathway expansion. Back in Mossy Acres here, and I should still have enough wheat left over in the barn storage over here. I have not cleared a bunch of the fields very regularly, but from 1 or 2 goes on both the wheat and the carrot, and even the potatoes for that matter, has left us with with quite a good backstock. If anything, the potatoes get used most frequently, as that is of course my food source, but with how large the fields are and having multiples of some of these types, it definitely helps. So now that we've got all of that turned into packed mud, I do want to make at least a handful more of these mud brick slabs. 35 might be good enough for now, and of course we can always just make more if we need to. I do of course carry 56 crafting tables, so I'll never have to worry about crafting table space. So this road right here is the one that we're going to be expanding from, at least for now. Eventually I think it will probably come full circle and end up right next to the windmill way over on the hill. We have a pathway, of course, that goes over there and next to the bee house. But as we stretch further through the valley this way, a handful of episodes now at this point, we went ahead and got this going right up through the 2 Cherry Grove hills and just down on the other side. And where it ends, we can see right here as we come out over here where there is hardly anything that has been touched whatsoever. We've got it meandering right down over here and with a lovely view of the new sawmill over there. So we need to take this pathway and we're going to try and find the best way for it to meander its way down, connect over there, and probably not go too far beyond that yet. Eventually, sure, but for now, let's just get this connected over to where we started building. And of course, in the near future, we're going to start adding a couple more buildings over there. So one thing at a time, one area at a time, we got to get this thing connected. First thing we're going to do here is just get one line of these sort of pathway blocks to try and plan out where I want the road to go. So we're not worried about any of the details right now, any of the coarse dirt or mixing in anything else right now. Let's just get a line figured out, and that'll help us determine what terrain we need to change, where we need to move the path, if we need to move it, if this is a good enough area, all of those sorts of things. Another thing I'm trying to keep in mind is that I want this pathway to leave enough room on at least one side, if not both sides, for there to be buildings in the future. So we're bringing it kind of along the bottom of this ridge, I suppose, so that we can have some stuff down here by the river, or just expand the river. I know right here it gets a little tight, and I am going to cut this out at some point, but it will for sure be important that we have enough room on at least one side, and like I mentioned before, if not both, for various buildings that we want to add in the future. I think we're going to have some up on the hill, so following the bottom of this ridge seems like a pretty good play. And now that we've reached this point where we're right next to the sawmill, I'm going to go ahead and add a bit of an intersection. We'll get a little bit closer, and I'll have one of these sections kind of connect to that side of the build, and then we'll have another path start to kind of follow the coastline a little bit. Alright, so we figured out the intersection and we've got the pathway connected to both sides of the sawmill here, and then I took it a little further down that way. It doesn't go up the hill yet, so we're gonna leave off right over there. At least for the time being, of course. Like I mentioned earlier, I do want it to eventually connect to the pathway that is over by the bee house and windmill over yonder. For now though, let's just stay focused on where our current road expansion lies, which is primarily over in this area. I think the area that we do have planned out at the moment is going to work just fine. There are some weird openings and little bodies of water over here that I think will eventually get covered up or filled in to some degree, but it shouldn't affect where we want the pathway to go at the moment. So we can go ahead and start planning out the actual width of the path by using the path blocks some more to get something that is 3 to 4 blocks wide consistently throughout, so that we can then get on to the mud, coarse dirt, and fence phases of the road. As we're going, I do also want to use the mud brick slabs, as that is an important part of the foundation of the roadway here, the non-detailed version, I suppose if you want to call it that, as we do of course want to use those at every single increase or decrease in elevation. We've got the width of the path shaped out now and ready to be detailed, and from the looks of it, I may have underestimated just how much of the road we're working on and how much mud we're going to need as a result of it. At the very least, we have enough coarse dirt, so that's the good news. We won't know until we try though, so first things first, let's go ahead and do the coarse dirt, which I like to do around the edges of the road more than anything, and then afterwards the mud will go more scattered along the center. Okay, step one done. We did have enough coarse dirt with 30 to spare. Yep, 30 to spare out of all of those stacks I had back at home. So we scraped by, but it doesn't look too promising for the mud. Let's find out. Well, all the mud that I had in my inventory has been used, and we at least made it further than I was fearing we would after seeing how much pathway we have. We got all the way up to here, including the little wraparound to the side, so I just need to go get maybe another stack of mud, and that should get us all the way down the pathway, at least to where we have it going currently. Well, it took a little bit more than one stack, call it maybe a stack in 15 or 16, but we do have all of the mud in place, so that part is done, and I don't need to go get any more mud at this point, at least until it's time to expand the rest of it, but I'm not going to worry about that for right now. All we've got left on the road is the fences and the little bushes, the leaves that kind of accent the distance of the path on either side. We've got all of the fences in place, but when it comes to the leaves, I actually decided on waiting for most of the pathway here since we still have so much of this area to build in the future. I figured, why don't we just use the leaves that we brought over here for the area immediately next to the sawmill, because at least this area is done for the most part, and I know that we probably won't be getting rid of any of the leaves that I placed, at least around the pathway over here. So we'll save the rest of the leaves that we have for once we have more of the area next to the remaining road sections filled out, so we don't have to worry about getting rid of things that we had previously built to make room for more buildings and whatnot that we plan on doing in the future. I'll just wait and add this detail at the end. With that done and out of the way, that is going to cover it for everything I wanted to get done in this episode. I did experiment with a couple of different things you may have noticed throughout the video. In the first half, we kind of kept that more time-lapse sort of feel and less of the progress along the way of getting the project done. And then in the second half, I sort of went back to kind of showing you guys every little step along the way, gathering the things we need, going back to the house, sorting through our storage, all of those sorts of things. And I do think I like that way better. It's also good to kind of keep you guys in the loop on everything that's going on rather than just shoving a bunch of build time lapses in your face. So I think we'll definitely stick with more of the latter. I just need to figure out at this point how I work scripting in the videos with that style, because it's much easier to do that when I'm just voicing over time lapses. Either way, that's for me to worry about. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I do want to say a huge shout out to everyone who supports both the YouTube channel and Twitch channel via the Patreon. And speaking of the Twitch channel, if you guys don't already watch over there, we stream 5 to 6 days a week, every single week, and get up to a lot of stuff over there. I spend way more time on Twitch than I do on YouTube. I'm trying to kind of fix that, but if you want more of our content, that's definitely the place to do it. The link will be in the description. Beyond that, I'm looking forward to the next episode. I've got some fun stuff planned for it, and until next time, I will see you there.